Yo, this is productivity and procrastination. I'm James, and that's Joe. And we're two guys that are going from we don't do anything to we'd like to get some stuff done in our life. And well, this is season 2, and it is probably something similar to episode 40.
Episode 4.
Yeah.
Episode.
So, how you doing, Joe?
Thanks for asking, James. I am doing pretty tired.
Pretty tired. Are you
Pretty
supposed to be
tired.
up and at 'em well before this?
Oh yeah, baby, I'm supposed to be.
I dragged
But
myself 5 minutes before. Ran and got a coffee.
it was a hard choice getting out of bed this morning. It was like my alarm went off and I was like, okay, time to get up. And then I was like, man, this is warm. And then my brain started wandering and I'm like, no, no, no. You fall asleep. You're gonna fall asleep. So I had to like push myself out of bed.
Yes.
My thing is getting derpier. Okay, good.
Well then.
But yeah, we made it.
Yeah, episode 40. Wow. It's that time of the year. Um how did your week go, Joe?
My week went pretty good. So it was good through Tuesday, like Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday.
My fire alarm goes off. Don't worry about it. Anyway, go ahead.
Why would your fire alarm go off?
I thought I blew out the tip of my incense, but apparently I didn't.
Oh.
So,
All
anyway,
right. You just burnt some incense in your room.
yeah, pretty much.
Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, those days I was able to wake up early. I was able to work on my stuff. But then Thursday night into Friday morning, Thursday night I got done with D&D and I spent time with friends afterwards all the way till 10, and so it was hard to get up at 6, which I didn't. I ended up waking up at 8 for work. And then Friday night I have games from 8 to 10, and so I didn't wake up Saturday early. And then Saturday I had a celebration for my little human who I live with. Like they're like, oh yeah, you've moved out, you're growing, you're a big kid, that type of stuff. And so that went until like 1 in the morning, and so I didn't do it then. And then last night was movie night, which went way longer than it. So the movie night started at 9, and so I didn't do it then. So there's these like social obligations that, or social, not even obligations, social events. It's a lot of smoke. That this is the episode where you watch James's house burn down.
Right?
Keep your camera on, James. Insurance will love it.
I will.
Um, So it's just a bunch of social things that end up having me stay up late. And so it's like it's hard on those days to wake up early.
Oh, um, did you get your scales done?
Uh Mostly yes. Mostly they're done. Um I'd say it's probably like 95%. So like the scales are done to the point where I'm doing one of her hips. And everything else is done. So,
And so you, okay.
I mean, I did a lot this week. It just because those scales take a while. And I do want to add that I did find a way of making the scales look like I kind of wanted them to during the process of making them. So, I'm happy about it. I'm happy with the scales. And I'm excited to. There's a lot of like. I heard myself for a second there. That was weird. There's a lot of like. I did it again. I heard it again. Um. There was a lot of like intricacies when I'm doing these scales that I'm taking my time. I'm not like try to speed through them. Like I want there to be I'm using the scales as a way to change up the contour of the overall piece. And for those with layman terms is the outline. It like the line that like you draw on the outside of a character is called the contour. Or like the what is it? Silhouette. Change the silhouette of the character. And going well. So I didn't get done as much done I wanted this week because social obligations but I think that's just going to be the nature of the beast. I want my default to be waking up at 6, but there are going to be things that get in the way of that. I'm still going to try on those days that I stay up to 10 or even later, but the default is spending time arting.
Well, so it's like I'm trying to muster up the hard questions, you know?
Well, I think I end up prefacing a lot of those.
Yeah, it seemed like it. So,
Yeah.
it's like, how much do I hit on it? How much do you want me to hit on it? Kind of a thing. You said you wanted to get the scales done this week. That didn't happen. But you're almost done with them.
Yeah.
Um, do you feel like you could have got them done, but you kind of slubbed off a little bit, or how do
There
you feel about
wasn't
that?
there wasn't a lot of time that I spent where I wasn't like I didn't spend a lot of time just like doom scrolling or wasting time just sitting here not doing anything. Like if I was sitting here in this space and there was nothing to do, I was working on my scales. So it's mostly just like social like social obligation or social I don't want to say obligations because that makes it sound like I'm tied to them and I have to do them. Socializing. Like going out and spending time with a friend or that type of stuff is the only thing that got in between me and the scales, other than
How
work.
dare you?
Well, I mean, it was a big chunk of my weekend was that basically, and it's like I could have had so much more work done, but it's like I also had a lot
Yeah,
of social.
so yesterday, that was movie night, right?
Yep.
But what about the rest of the day? I mean, you had the day
So,
off.
yep, I ended up waking up at like 10:30 because I stayed up late the night before
So that's
for
11 hours before movie night. So what did you
yeah,
do?
I woke up, I started working on the scales. I worked on them for probably about an hour. Be my friend before my friend's like, "Hey, what you doing?" I'm like, "Oh, I was gonna go. I'm working on my stuff." And they're like, "You want to get lunch?" And so we got lunch. We played some Smash Brothers, watched some Baggage, which is this like dating show that Jerry Springer did a billion years ago. It was really good. Um, so we just basically turned that on and we just judged people.
Sounds like fun.
It is a lot of fun. Um, and then after that, my other friend was like, "Oh, hey, I bought you this game. Let's play." And so, like, as I got home, and so I played that game with them for a little bit. Well, I played that game with them. My other friend came on. Basically, like, as one social event ended, another one started.
Right.
3 times in a row. Because as soon as I was done playing games with my friends, my brother came over for movie night.
Gotcha.
So it was
I hear
very
you.
social.
I hear you. Yeah, that's that sounds normal. So, what can
Yeah.
I say? That's
But
normal life.
I do want to give myself kudos because like I said, my default is like waking up early and working on it. On my weekends, waking up and working on it. It's not like it's a choice. Like it just happens now. Like it's just who I am. So yeah, it's nice that that has become the default. Like the plan is to always go, and everybody knows it now too. It's like, hey, I like to go to bed at 8 so I can wake up and do my art. So it's not like a, it's something that's known, and so that, you know, it's getting done, it's happening.
And do you have any criticism of yourself this week? Like, do you have anything that you want to tweak, or did it go just swimmingly?
Um, I don't know. I'd like to see if I can get more done during the work hours, but that's also not the easiest thing to do to focus. Like it's hard to focus sometimes. But I'm gonna see if I can get something done this during the work hours because I've been during the work hours. I just been drawing in my notebook. I've been doing sketches of like how I want the background to look and trying to do that type of stuff. And just doing some other drawings too. Just thinking about the piece and like how to make it look good and what I want the background to look like and the general feel of it.
Well, I guess, I mean, taking a while on the piece. I mean, you began the piece before August 27th. So it's been
Yeah.
over a month now. Um, you wanted to get done with the piece before this point,
Yeah.
um, and to eventually ramp up to maybe get something done each week. But that would be a long time in the future, probably.
Yeah.
Um,
Well, it's also this
so,
piece has been those scales have been a lot of a lot of work. That's like the biggest. Because if it wasn't for the scales, I've already been like, if I was just done with like the drawing part of it, I would have already been coloring. Yeah, it's just because the scales are so intricate. Yeah, I decided to, my first piece should be a 10,000 piece jigsaw.
Mm. Yeah, I was thinking about that this week. I was like, he's having trouble with scales. What would I do? Well, his character's basically undressed. So why not just have her undressing but molting at the same, like shedding her skin, you
Mm-hmm.
know, like taking it off almost, So it's kind of like she's taking off clothes and she's shedding her skin, kind of like it's the same thing. I thought that might be able to hasten, yeah, your situation. But anyway, that was my take on it.
Yeah,
Nice.
that's fun. That's a fun idea. Should let me know before the scales were done, James. But yeah, it's overall it wasn't a bad week. It's just socializing, and then the same thing's gonna happen. Well, not the same thing exactly. I do have my brother's birthday party on Wednesday, which I've become the default host for parties, at least in my with my family, specific like my yeah. So there's that, and then that's my only
Well, that's
real
a Wednesday.
obligation. Yeah.
That's not a meat of the day, right? Like,
Well,
well, it doesn't seem like your weekends seem to be weekends, right? So like
yeah.
doing stuff with people, not necessarily. So you're trying to keep basically your 2 hours each day of the week, not necessarily like 2 hours each day and then the weekend like this huge chunk or anything.
That's the plan is to do a huge chunk, but then socialize or like people get in the way because like my default is I wake up and I work on it until I get called away. Like that's the plan. If I don't get called away, then I'm just gonna keep working on it until it's done. Because yeah, like the first thing I do is I brush my teeth, and then I open up Photoshop and begin drawing.
All right. Well, I guess I don't have too much more to say on it, just that what do you want to get done this next week?
I'd like to finish the scales and then be finished with the contour. We're using that word again. Of the actual the woman half or the person half, and that way we're we're ready for color. But that might be a small. I don't know. I want to keep my bar low here. And then so if I can get those done, then I can start doing some coloring.
Nice.
Get in some flat colors. And I feel like this is going to take me a while to get the coloring done too, because I need to learn how to color skin properly, and that's a whole thing. Because I'm not gonna not learn how to do like skin and stuff, and like
No, learning's part of it. I mean, you
that's the
can't.
reason I'm doing these illustrations, and I'm not just practicing with just random sketches. I'm actually going from start to finish, and I'm learning what it takes along the way. That's a big part of it.
Well, okay. Anything else
Oh yeah,
need?
this week I'd like to do some more just regular drawings. I'd like to see what it would look like to finish an illustration like in a non-digital, in an analog and analogically. I'm trying to figure out the word. Uh,
Well, let's just
in
use
like a
analog. We
um
have to come up with something.
um or maybe do a painting of some sort. I don't know. I'd like to do something else as well because I think that's important to me. I want to keep exploring artistically this week as well. But guess what? I don't have any plans today, and everybody's working. So, guess what I'm gonna be doing today?
I'm gonna guess it's art.
Yeah, boy, you freaking caught it. Nice.
Well, I hope you do well.
I hope so too. I should do great. All right, yams. I've yammered on. I've I've talked my little ear off. It's your turn. How'd your week go?
Just as expected. Excellent. So,
Nice.
um, just I edited all my photos. It took me forever, forever longer than I thought it would. But every thinking in okay, even last yesterday, I woke up at 6 o'clock in the morning, just randomly. I was like really awake, and I'm like, I'm gonna go back to bed. Nah. So I woke up, made a coffee, started editing till 1 p.m. and
Dang.
then went to work. So it was a very tiring day.
Yeah.
Um, I was drained at the end of it, but I had gotten it all done. That was the last stint I needed. Um, I learned a lot,
That's
and
awesome.
yeah, and I mean, at first it was just following all the steps, that were laid out for me, and then after a while it was like, I think I can do this more efficiently. Started tweaking my own process, and
Mm-hmm.
I found one I liked, and just a little bit of a tweak to it, but I think it keeps everything a little bit nicer in my mind on what to do. And a lot of passes was like you want to edit certain spots and be like, okay, I have a lot of photos, so I need to do just those edits in all the photos, and then I need to take a look at them. You go, okay, what do I need to change? Because I can't just change. If I change one thing or take out something in one, I have to take it out in all of them that are similar.
Yep.
So, so that there's a nice cohesion to all of them.
Yeah.
Yeah, it took a long time, and but they're done. So now I can crop them and do some finishing stuff and work on finishing my logo and getting my products up. So this week is all about that, and so I'm assuming by the end of the week I will have products up. I don't know if I'll have them all up, but I'm gonna try. And yeah, it went really well. The tweaks on my schedule um, were good, and some of that's gonna happen today too. So that's everything's just little tweaks and minor fine tunings. I didn't even play a game. Well, no, I did. I did. I played a game. I played Defendin'
Oh yeah, that's a fun one.
on Monday. Um, yeah, I played like the endless mode and
Mm.
got very far too. It was like,
Oh. Oh, are we
yeah,
bragging? Are we being a braggart?
yes, this is like 600 something. I think
Dang.
it was great. But I had bought Borderlands 3 and installed that, and then opened it up, and then never even created character. And I just
Why?
closed it back. I just didn't have time. I was editing in the middle of upload, just downloading the files, and then it was like, I don't have time for this right now. I just never got to play it. So that was that. Um, just working and enjoying working, and it's going well. It's yeah,
Yeah.
I don't know
Nice,
what else to
James.
say besides that.
This week, do you have any criticisms for yourself?
Work 7 hours in one day before work.
Yeah. Don't do that.
Don't do that. No, if anything, I probably did too much work.
Yeah.
But I really wanted to get all of them done.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, I really wanted to get all of them done. And no, I mean, I did 100 shots, and every single one of them I'm putting up. I think I only have like 1,700 pictures. Let's say 2,000 that I may have up from our other business.
Mm-hmm.
So I did, a 20th of what took us like 3 years
Wow.
in like a matter of weeks. I mean, it takes a lot of work. I mean, I probably
Mm-hmm.
put in, you know, I don't even know how many hours. But and my weekends are, you know, more work in them probably.
Yeah.
Um, so it's kind of like all I did basically. Um, but it was good because it's just getting done is I just want to have products and I want to see where how much I could get done in the next series of months, and that's exciting. It's the goals that are pushing me. um, and I don't really think about anything else, which is kind of sad. um,
Yeah.
you know Besides just, oh, crap's going wrong, I gotta fix something. um, Leaks here and there, my dishwasher disposal's leaking now and my dishwasher runs, and so in lieu of fixing that, now I have a bucket under it. But I feel like my house is a series of buckets. Like cars leaking, everything's leaking. But but that's okay. Um because I am leaking the rewards of working hard. And
Good, good bringing that back around.
I,
No, it sounds like you had a good week. Um, it's awesome that you got the editing done. That sounds, especially for 100 pictures, that's a lot.
yeah.
Um, yeah, it sounds like we're both in this like work mode, and it's pretty cool. It's like our default has not become procrastination. We've swapped over to our default being production.
Yeah, it's yeah, mine on my side it was a lot of mental hurdles, but I think it generated a complete change instead of something that would just be temporary like it usually is for me. Something
Mm-hmm.
that could be exchanged at any moment for what I deem to be more fun. Now it's no. The decision has been made, and this is what I do, who I want to be, and who I will be. There is no, oh, I don't feel like it, uh, or the task is large. What should I do instead? No, it's the task is large. Good. Bring on the hard stuff because I know it's the hard stuff that's gonna make me change. Makes me think of a saying back in the day. It's an old saying. I don't even know who said it. It's like, um, was like, then was iron men in wooden ships, and now is iron ships with paper dolls. So, so it's like it's it's different when you different now. Before I was a paper doll, you know, and now I feel like I'm not going to stop because I'm not going to stop. That's all there is to it.
Yeah, so you how do you think that you got from, I mean, we've documented it, like video evidence. How do you think you ended up, like, do you think it was an accumulation of a lot of like learning about yourself through these videos, or what do you think helped get you into this mode of production that you are currently in, and do you think it's sustainable long term?
As odd as it is, I think it is sustainable. until I want to redefine myself again. But I think that in order to change you have to be sold on who you want to be. And because if you're not, like myself, anything would stop me. Any new thing, any exciting thing, to search for the fun, basically. Because life is fun, and you should have fun. I'm not
Yeah.
saying that, but um, but when it's funny. We always talk about the perfection side versus the not, and I
What do you mean?
think
Will you define that for the people who maybe not have heard us talk about that?
sure. Perfection. I mean, everybody has their own kind of definition of that, but I've always, whatever it is I want to do, I want to be somebody who like does that is definable by that, like somebody who I've maybe idolized, of my in my life, somebody known for something in the art realm. It would be like Picasso or one of the greats. And in any other field, it would, Leonardo da Vinci is like the guy that I always think of as like the master guy, doing his thing. And in our day and age, we have very little master apprentice programs I can think
Yeah.
of. There really isn't that era. So we have a lot to fight against. We have the most awesome food. We have the most awesome games. The most that life has at an instant. So it is instantly capable of taking your attention. So how do you bypass that? You you must desire it more than all of that. I don't know what else to say about that. So the perfection side to me is taking into account everything that I am, and so you would have to take into account all the things that you are, and define who you want to be. Uh, and be 100% sold on it. I mean, if it's not true, then it's not going to work. But if you can see yourself, you want it enough, and for me, I had to tweak my entire schedule to align with it because everything, including what you do and when, can trip you up in a way and cascade into, you know. So basically my whole schedule is arranged so that I can work effectively and take use of the large blocks of time effectively. And so the end result is, though I have no accomplishments or time relative to my life in it, I have slated myself to be that apprentice to the master I would love to be someday. And all that time and dedication turn into expertise and accomplishment. And we will see what happens over the years.
Nice. Nice. I like that. So what you're kind of thinking is like by defining what you want to be and having a clear crystal image of that, you can then try to align your current life to that to help kind of guide your choices on how to move forward.
There are a lot of reasons to do that, and one of them would be barrier to entry. Aligning
Gosh.
your schedule.
It's hard to not. We haven't discussed that in so long, but man, it's so hard to not say that's an underrated thing. It's so underrated. Barrier to entry is such a big deal when it comes to doing the things that you want to do. Like if you have to spend 30 minutes to set up something so that you can do what you want to do, that's not good. That is what someone in the business would call real bad.
Yeah. And kind of doing it the way I have been, it just aligns really well with that. Everything I do is basically defeats barrier to entry in some way.
Yeah.
And
And I also want to define barrier of entry for people who maybe have not heard it because we haven't talked about it in a while. Barrier to entry is taking time to the time it takes to do or practice or whatever you're trying to work on, like how long it takes you to go from not doing it to doing it. That to us, that's what our definition of barrier to entry is. So, for example, I have started just having a notebook on my thing with a pencil and an eraser. So, like, my barrier to entry is a second. Like, it's nothing. Because your brain gets bored. And if you're sitting, it's not going to want to sit down and, set up, a whole thing. That's like I'd like to have my easel up and out at all times, but it's just too big. I don't have room for it.
You said your brain gets bored. That's one thing that I didn't experience this week. Boredom. In any way. I think it is because my mind is understanding that there is going to be hard, boring times. Like, believe me, editing that many photos, that many passes each time, you could define it as boring. Man, my wrist hurt. I had to sleep with a thing on, to keep it straight.
Yeah.
Just because there's a lot of holding down of the button as I'm moving very meticulously slow to do certain things. And after a while, my hand was like carpal tunnel hurting. And I would feel it at night, and so I had to do something about it. But I am prepared to basically be bored and to do the hard stuff, because that's what I signed up for. So you have to take pride in that. You have to be able to not have that as a barrier. It's not about the moment being great. It's about the the result feeding you through the hard. And it's a much more lasting and powerful way to deal with the things that are unpleasant. That is how you would get through the slog of it. Um, and so, because I was buffered with all of that, what could have been boring was like, no, I need to do this. This is what I do. This is the meat. I have to be able to weather this. And so there was no boredom. It was, this is what I do. And so I was weatherproof to the boredom.
I ended up tackling the boredom in a different way. Yours sounds very stalwart, very Mulan. That Mulan
Yeah,
song.
I'd say the whole thing is very, it's a mental thing, everything. So
The Mulan Be a Man song. That's the vibe I'm getting from your stalwart. All these things. My strategy was a little different. Um, as I'm sure we're shocked. Everyone out there who listens to us knows that we are very, very different as far as approaches to things. So my approach was, okay, so I've got all these scales I needed to do, right? You know what's also really fun is working on a monotonous task while there's like a TV show going on in the background. So I've been watching TV or like TV on my other monitor, and just worked on my scales. It's been very relaxing. It's been fun. It's like something I look forward to doing. It's just nice.
I listen to like songs about being a badass.
I did that for a little bit, but they
lot.
stopped to lose their meaning for me. Like I get bored of them.
Oh, they never lose their meaning to me. And I did watch a football game in the corner, so I couldn't listen to the music at that point, and I was kind of missing the music. It was like my workout music kind of stuff, and so I was like, well, I want to watch this game anyway. So I was basically just listening to it because I couldn't really watch it, but it was there.
Nice, nice. But yeah, I don't know. For me, the big insurmountable tasks are you just pick at them, until they're done. Just keep picking at them. There's no time limit. We're talking about things that we're working on. We're growing. We're learning. We're becoming better. There's no time limit. Just keep picking at it. You'll get there.
Yeah.
It's a more relaxed approach, but I think for me that's just a better way of doing it than for me it's easier than trying to be stalwart and all those other adjectives.
Yeah. Well, it has been something that has tripped you up in the past, though. So maybe, you know, this is my conclusion to how to not have it trip me up. And if it takes the stalwart mind or whatever
Yeah.
it is, I'll take it.
Yeah. No, I'm not saying that you shouldn't do it. I'm trying to give other people, I'm giving everybody like an alternative because not everyone's going to be like doing it James style. Some people are going to be doing it Joe style. It's going to be a thing where there's going to be different approaches, and certain approaches are going to work for different people. And so I think it's important to discuss both styles. And I think a lot of like what got me to the point where I'm at, because it feels like we ended up flipping the switch at the same time, which is weird.
Maybe you just needed to flip the switch. Or be left in the dust.
I don't know. Maybe there was some sort of like codependent part of it. I can't say there was, because it doesn't feel like, even if you had a bad week, I still would just be like plugging away at what I'm doing. Like, it wouldn't change that. Like, I'd be like, okay, well, let's figure out why, because it's important to me that you do succeed, because you're my friend and my co-host on this podcast. Friend first, though. But for me, I think because it became a daily part of my life, and I think the biggest thing that we don't talk about on how we got here is the weekly self-reflection. I think self-reflection is how we learned how to get here. And having somebody else point out things and ask the hard questions, and it's important to ask yourself on a weekly basis. If you're listening to this, ask yourself, like, are you doing what you can to accomplish what you're trying to? Are you drawing on a daily basis? Are you doing what works for you to get things done? And it's going to be trial and error. It's going to be this like, oh, does this work? I'm not really feeling that. What about this? Oh, that seems to be working better. It's doing iterations of yourself. So what ended up working for me is like working on it daily, made it part of my life, made it something that if I have a few moments, I'm picking this up and I'm drawing, right? But then I wasn't satisfied with that, because the drive started to grow. The more I did this, the more it became part of my life. The more I'm like, okay, well, I want to get better. How do I get better on a consistent basis? Illustrations. Illustrations is how I get better, because it's the process from start to end. And that's what I wanted, is I wanted to grow throughout the process. And through this, it should help me get some sort of workflow, and it'll help me get illustrations out, which are all things that are important to me. And so that was a no-brainer. And so that's the reason why I went this illustration route, specifically for numerous reasons. Getting better, and because I want illustrations. And so it just became a byproduct of wanting to get better, of wanting to grow as an artist. And I think because I did it daily and I wanted to grow, because I was like, okay, well, I'm doing this stuff and I'm seeing like I am slowly getting better. Things are improving, but I want more. I want those finished pieces. I want that like aha, ooh, ah. I want that type of stuff. And so it was just a natural turn of events, I think, for me, of making part of my daily life, that drive. Is there any words I used in there that I need to define that are okay? Because I want to make it as clear as possible, because like here's the frustrating part for me, right? As somebody who's watched way too many YouTube tutorials and way too many videos on like how to do certain things, like sometimes people will skip over definitions because they've defined it before, or they'll explain something, right? And you're like, okay, well, that makes sense. And then you're freaking doing it when you're drawing or you're sketching or you're, painting, and then you learn something. You're like, oh, that's good. Son of a snake. That freaking guy mentioned this. And I didn't understand it when he said it. It made sense, but I didn't understand it. Like it didn't snap in the right way that I thought they meant. I don't have concrete, but it is something that's happened to me before. And so I like to define things as much as possible so that they're more digestible. I don't want jargon to get in the way of learning. I went on a tangent. I went on a bit of a tangent.
Well, the one thing that I scrutinize a little bit with your current situation would be that for me, since I look at the perfection side of who I am, I am training myself for the day that I can do this for a living. And because of that, I'm constantly pushing myself for not just consistency each day, but at some point I need to be trying to work on this for like a real work day, So what I do is when I have those time blocks, I push myself so that I get those stints in. Because that's what's going to matter. When I'm doing this for a living, I'm going to wake up and I'm going to be working. And that could be a majority of the day. Maybe it's just 6 hours. Maybe it's 16. I don't know. So I constantly kind of push myself in those ways. I would suggest that at least one of your days off, do not just wait for someone to message you. Have a defined block of time that maybe exceeds a normal working period that you would think, and push yourself to get a block of hours in that is maybe even a little more than you want. Because I feel like I need that, and maybe you would need that as well, but I need that because I need to have that experience, and I need to understand how I'm going to be under those circumstances, because that is going to be my circumstance. So I would suggest that. What do you think about that?
I don't think that's a bad idea at all. I think it's good to push yourself to see like what you're capable of. I think it would be good just for production. Like I said, my plan today is just draw. I don't expect anything to happen until around 5, maybe even 6. So I should have literally all day. Yeah.
Okay. Because the way that you were defining it, it was like Well, if somebody calls up in an hour and pings
No,
me,
no.
I'm
No,
available.
like I
You
said,
know?
everyone's at work.
Oh,
Everyone's got a life. I'm just at home because it's Monday and I happen to have the day off. So I have literally all day to just work. Probably gonna have lunch at some point, but other than that, I'm ready.
okay. So, what do you have to say about the, mindset of doing it for a living, therefore you must be,
Yes.
you know,
Um,
acclimated?
I do think that in the past I've had a lot of free time and I did not spend it how I would now. And I think that has to do with that switch that we've flipped. I feel like that's the way to describe it, is because it feels like we're both like my default has been like relaxing up to this point. It's been like distract myself with video games. Now my default is, oh, I've got some time. Let's work on the Lamia. Let's work on illustrations, let's draw. Like that has become my default. And so it's like,
So you have to remind yourself every single time you're in a block of time. Like for me, I know when my blocks of times are because I schedule my situation like to the damn letter. I know exactly when. You kind of sound like it's like, well, when I magically find my time, then I most likely am going to gravitate towards doing art. So it's kind of like a, you know, but it's not like you don't even have to think about it because that's what you're doing because you already know. Like, so mine would be more of like, it's like I don't even have to be reminded about it because it's just there.
mm-hmm.
And yours seems like there's more of an opportunity to ignore it.
I don't know. Yeah, you might be right. It's not scheduled. It's not as, I mean, other than in the mornings, it's not like scheduled, but the it's more of a, if I have free time, that's what I'm doing. Or sorry, when I have free time, that's what I'm doing. It's not a trying to think. It's not the hell. It's not a hard scheduled thing. Now, I do want to get back to. Is there any other questions about this? Because I do want to get back to the actual original question of what do I think of having a scheduled time and like how that would work for working.
Well, I mean, if that's what you're going to talk about it.
Okay, so for me, it's project based. So like my default would be working until my project gets completed, which would be an illustration if I had all my time, which I don't because we're both working 40 hours a week. Which I got a raise. Yay. So I don't think it would be an issue moving into working on this full time if that was an option, because it would just be, instead of working I'd be doing this. It wouldn't be a question of it. It would just happen because creation is my new default. That's just what would naturally happen.
Well, I mean, I would hope. I would have to say that I would question whether that would be the case, um, based on the evidence I've seen. What happens when you have large blocks of time? Um, but yeah, I mean, um, for me, it's a more I am serious because I am serious in it. Um, and there is, you know, that. But that is what I question on yours, is whether or not you would actually do it if you had large swaths of time every day.
Mm-hmm.
Can you? And but
Yeah, I
if there's
can
not really. Oh, go ahead.
I can understand the concern because it does seem like it's a little bit more whimsical than your method, and but I think that's just who we are as people. I'm more, I'm a bit more whimsical, at least as far as my approach. I think it's because of, but okay. There's a few angles I want to discuss. So, because right now creating art doesn't make me money. That's a big driving force I think for you. Is like I've never seen, well, I have, but barely. I don't have a consistent source of money through my illustrations. And so it's hard to know how, because I can't predict myself, but I have to assume that my process wouldn't change. If I had more time, because my default is now, because it used to be, like I said, just video games. Now that my default is working on art, then during the, like, if I was to be working like this as a job, I would have to assume that I'm getting paid for it. And so by that, I would have a metric to measure my standards, which my standards would be X amount of illustrations per month, which would be a way I could break down like my work and like how much I can get done. And so there would be hard no's to external distractions in the event that I wasn't completed with my project. So it's because my default is drawing, I don't think it would be an issue. Now, because my default used to be just distract myself with video games, that was an issue. But assuming, right, that because I'm not working my job, which means I have figured out a way to make money as an artist consistently, it means I have a metric to measure my work by, which means I can identify what I need to do in order to continue on that same trajectory or increase it. I should be able to quantify how much work I need to get done. Which means, oh, hey, let's go hang out. Sorry, I can't. I have to finish this. Is basically what it would look like.
And why does that quantification of reward influence that?
For sustainability. Because when my life is based on whether, like, if my art is based on whether or not I get to have a home, it's a little different than right now where I'm doing it because I want to grow as an artist and I want to create illustrations, because like all those same things will still apply, but there's also the added effect of there's also the added effect of being able to survive.
Interesting. Therein is another divergence from the way that we're thinking. I have never assumed for a second that what I was going to do would not make me thrive. So because of that, I've always had the thought of, I'm doing this as much as I can. It's going to become my life. And when I hear you, it's like, well, it's like your mind is thinking poverty or something, whereas mine's like thinking, you know, dude, I am going to make this work, and it's going to be great for my life, and I'm going to be making abundant money over a period of time.
So I think that's just different in our perspectives because you've been making money from this.
Yeah, but I have no idea whether or not that my situation will make money. I have no idea how much. So it's still just as absolute nothing as you.
I would argue against that just because you've seen something similar and you run a business that does something similar, as opposed to I don't run an art business that I sell paintings.
Well, I'm not just taking into consideration photography. I'm also thinking about my whole writing thing, and I don't know how much any of this is going to be combined to do. But what I'm trying to contrast is that, you know, if you believe that there's a chance that this is just a poverty-stricken something you're doing as a replacement for video games in your mind, you have defined it in that way, whereas I have not. That is a yet another reason to not do it. To say yes to the whatever, or to keep yourself stuck in a poverty situation, and not putting in the work and the effort that it's going to take to bust through that. I think that's a factor. I would have to admit that I think that's a factor.
I would have to disagree that it's a replacement for video games. It's ended up just becoming what I do instead, not as I'm not playing video games right now because I got to work on art. It's just instead of drifting towards video games, I drift towards creation. It wasn't a choice. It's not a choice every single time. It's what I do. It's a little bit more nuanced but I do think it is worth mentioning that it's not like a choice I choose every time. It's just what happens.
Well, in the example that you gave, that's kind of why I bring it up, because in the example you gave, it was like, well, based on, how much I have to work, I may do a social function or choose to do the art. And that was a monetary decision. Kind of why I say that. Whereas in my situation, there would be no decision. It would be, I have either slated to work or have defined that event as worth going to more than working. But the default is solid work every minute I can. And so there is no based on, I mean, I guess if I was rich, I'd be like, well, but then everything would be, I might as well do it.
Yeah.
So I don't know. It's just a little weird that you brought up the financial decision instead of the any other decision.
It was just a perspective that I wanted to touch on for accuracy's sake, more than anything.
Well, I guess my conclusion is yet again that I think all in is a mentality that if you want to get your stuff done, will have the least amount of trip ups and potentials to give you reason to stop.
I would disagree. So here's the reasons why I disagree. I believe that an all-in mentality is unsustainable. I think a big change is unsustainable for the long term. And as such, it will end up leading to burnout, and it'll lead to wanting to drop the whatever you're doing altogether.
I actually think that's the opposite. I think that it is more sustainable and it buffers yourself to the things that are negative. Whereas the evidence seems to point to your method being more likely to be unsustainable and more likely to whatever that second thing was that I forgot now.
What do you think makes your all-in method not lead to burnout?
Because it is what you have chosen for your life. It isn't. It is therefore it has many protected statuses in your mind. You don't have to worry about fun because it is the fun. It is like the reason. Like it's is so hard to define. But there is no wavering when you've decided, like, this is what I am. And, like, ever since that night after Grim Dawn, there is no boredom. There was no. The only thing that I have changed is trying to become more efficient because the decision has been made. I am all in. And, So these little decisions that have plagued me in the past, it doesn't even, I guess it's not even on the radar anymore. It's like there is no, I don't have to worry about it being fun in between. I don't have to worry about the things like you mentioned recently that, well, when I got into it, um, I have to find a way to rekindle this excitement in the middle because it basically gets boring and monotonous and it's work. Well, yeah, bring it on, is my perspective. I need to power through that because the rewards are out there. The rewards, eh, I don't need to worry about the boredom. Um, like it protects you in a way that it doesn't seem like you're protected. And so, and the sustainability is, well, pretty obvious to me now, considering um, there is there are those protected statuses. I do not have boredom anymore. I have a reason to find more, um, and a hope for the future, and an excitement to see what's going to happen after that collective work is starting to actually be finished. Um, so that's what I would say.
Okay. So you don't get burnout because you're excited to see what's going to happen when you finish your work, and the fun is based on the work and not anything else.
No, it's based on, well, that's a big part of it, but the fun is is who you become, who you are. The fun is trying to be, you know, the that best version, that best master of your craft that you can. Like that's the fun. And and it seems like it weathers the storm. Um like I wanted to get done with what I wanted to get done. I knew it was a big task, but you know what? I seized the opportunity and I worked 7 hours before I had to work. There was, I had even bought a brand new game. I hadn't even got the character creation, but I was chose to work on a day that I work 7 hours. I would have to venture to say that you probably haven't chosen to work 7 hours on the day you didn't work.
Um, did you happen to work any other days during the week, or is it just the 1 7 hour?
Yeah, yeah, I did. I worked 5 days straight.
Nice. Okay. Kudos. No, I didn't work 7 hours on one day. Any day. Maybe today. Now I have the day off. But um, I think I'm concerned that you, again, we've had this discussion before, but I'm worried that your approach is unsustainable. I prefer more of a ramp up approach as opposed to a
I think
large
that's
change.
because you're not ready to commit.
I would disagree. I think I've already committed. I think I committed when I chose to start ramping up.
One could define that way. Well, I think sustainability is created when somebody decides there is no going back.
You have all these, and this is an attack on you. This is an observation. You have all of these hard definitives, and it feels unrealistic.
And then you do it, and it becomes the most real thing that there is.
Yeah, freaking show us.
Yep, I have so far, and I will
Yeah,
continue.
yeah, you've been doing great. You've been kicking a lot of butts. Good job, James.
Yeah, I just I want the same for you, so I keep pointing out
Dude, keep
the
pointing out things.
differences because you know I am somebody who's tried to do things for decades, and this is easiest the easiest way to change your life is to actually have a different life. I mean, it's as simple as that. It's like the big changes that you keep on trying to get me to not change with is actually the easier method to change. Um, and it's not even close.
I would argue it's easier for you because I do think there is a difference in approach that will work differently for different people. Unless you're saying that there is, unless and that's
Well,
again
the
that's
only
my
way to know
interpretation
that
of it.
the only way to know that's true is to, you know, find someone who actually have to complete, get to the point that you're talking about in the future by slowly ramping up. Um, and I don't know. I hear a lot more about people who define themselves and then change into that. Now that I have done that, it's like they're just sticking out to me, like when I hear about them. And it's like, oh yeah, that does seem like the pattern that I see here. Um, so I don't know, um, because back in the day, I would just write or you know help my wife here and there with some photography, and I remember telling her, "Oh yeah, I'll learn how to do all this, and I'll help you out. And over time, we're gonna be this." And over the years, it never became that. I was just helping here and there, and writing until a better choice came out. But I do not have to choose now. The fun things are going to happen, and I will choose to play those games or go to those events, and with no question, I'm going to do it. Um, because I know the moment it's ended, this is who I am. And the slow ramp up, I think, is just a way for us to you think that you're just going to change into something by doing something a little bit over time. You're just going to like just do more of it over time, but when has that ever been the case for me? I doesn't seem like it's so. But the moment I chose, you know what, I have got to decide who I want to be. I've got to decide if I want to be a creative or if I just want to live my life and do my thing. And in order to do that, I have got to jump in with both feet and figure it out. Figure it out. If I say that I want to do this, then my schedule should reflect it. If I say I want to do this, then my time, I've got to be able to do the work. I've got to be able to spend the real time. And I've got to be excited about who I'm going to be. That's the longevity. That's
So
you say okay, but
I was
that's
going to
not
ask.
really what you mean.
I was going to ask a question. So just to clarify, you believe that there is only one real way to become what you want to do.
I think that there is one easy way, and the others have a lot of ways to pitfall so that you either never get there or choose a different path. That's what I think.
interesting. I would argue that you're wrong. I would also argue that we both might be wrong.
Well, let's stick to what we're doing.
Right. What I think is actually what has caused us to get to this point where we're both creating is the weekly introspection. And how we've used that is more a reflection of our personalities than a actual method.
Self-reflection requires some kind of definition of what you want to change into. I mean, you could reflect all you want on what you did, but without some kind of vision for what you want to change into, you can never decide on what to change.
I would disagree.
How would you disagree with that statement?
So I would say this week I drew. If next week I didn't draw, my self-reflection would be, okay, what did I do that didn't let me draw? I believe it's I feel like it's a self-reflection on your previous week and like what didn't work as opposed to
No,
looking
the
forward.
didn't work. That's what I'm talking about. The without a vision for what you want have defined as what is valuable, you can't reflect and decide to change. You need to know what you want to change into in order to decide to change into that.
I I won't
Reflection in it of itself doesn't do anything.
I
You need to know what you
disagree.
want to be.
I feel like you have a different perspective on this. Um, I see it as okay, I want to draw more. So each week, I'm going to try to draw more than the last week.
That's a vision. You want to draw greater than
Okay,
what
so
you
you're
are
not
currently
talking about
at.
like your perfect writer or your perfect video editor or whatever the.
No,
Okay,
no, that is just the nth degree of what you're doing. I'm taking it to the nth degree, whereas you are not. That's it.
okay. Well then, yeah, I think a vision is required. Like you have to have a goal in mind in order to reflect against it. Is that what
And
you're trying
all
to
I'm
say?
saying is you take your self reflection is king, and I say, you're right. I have taken that to the nth degree and defined who I am going to be to such a magnification that it solves the problems. That's it.
I I hope the best for you, but I do believe that it's going to be unsustainable.
Okay. I mean, say that, but there's no evidence so far now.
There has been evidence. So you've done this switch flip before, and then there
No.
was a month and a half of you not doing anything.
No, I've never made this switch until Grim Dawn Day.
Okay. Well then, we'll consider this a new run, and I'm excited to see your progress.
What you may be confusing is that I was ready. You know, I use that term because that was the term I said. I was already ready to spring the trap.
No, this is before
I
that.
didn't spring the trap. When when did I do what I'm doing now?
It was. It was like it was a month. It was before a month and a half before. Like, there was like a month and a half where you didn't do a whole lot. It was just before then, and I had asked you a bunch of times if like you felt like you had ended up burning out, or that type of thing, and you didn't know.
I didn't know. I've never said that.
No, you didn't say those exact words. You said I may have. I think is the exact wording.
So then what you're saying is the day that I chose to work hard in my car is the same as here. That is that what you're talking about? The day I started writing hard. Is that what you're talking about? Like a month
No,
ago?
it was you had like stopped playing video games for like a month and you had been very productive and then you just stopped.
But I never defined myself as this is what I do and I'm the perfection of it and I'm going to. And I believe in this change. Those factors were not involved.
I'm
I
willing
am
to bet
now.
if we were to go back and watch the episodes, you've probably said those exact same words.
Hmm. Well,
Not that I'm trying to tear you down. I'm not trying to tear you down. Your progress has been incredible. I think you are doing a very good job. You're working very hard. I'm concerned about longevity.
well, I'm not. I'm concerned about, I guess, maybe iterations where I could have thought maybe I was on this scale before, but I didn't pull the trigger the way that I'm right now. And I definitely didn't make my life and schedule everything based around it. And I definitely didn't believe that I supernaturally had dreams confirming that I was going to change. And I definitely didn't choose to do as much work as I possibly can. And it is definitely not the same. What is the same is the way that you seem to be going. Seems to be the same things that have tripped you up in the past, having a hard task and having to feel like it's work is the same thing that seems to be tripping you up all the time. And I do not worry about hard work.
Neither do I. I don't know what you mean by what they're tripping me up.
That's what you say. You say that that when you do like the picture of the goat that you had a time where you tried really hard, but it got to the point where it wasn't fun, and that no, I think it was before then. There was a task you tried to do, the larger task, and you said that you were doing it, and it became just hard, and it stopped you from almost drawing, for a long period of time. And then recently, when you talked about your scales, same thing. It became hard and boring and not exciting. And therefore, it's tripped you up that weekend. You had 3 days off and it tripped you up. I don't see where that has changed. It seems like you need to define what you do, the hard stuff, the hard work, the slog, as kind of like exciting and more fun, because you do not want to continue if it's just work, just powering through it. And powering through it sometimes when you actually do something for a living is what you have to do. There is going to be a lot of that, even in art, where you just have to do it. And it doesn't seem like you're ready for that because you keep talking about not being ready for that.
I would have to disagree with the powering through it. So in specifically the goat picture, because I think it's the goat picture is what you meant as far as like being excited for an exploration and then not completing it because I let too long of a time pass between the excitement and the starting of the creation of it.
I think that's what I started with, but there was a time earlier than that when you would talk to somebody about how to progress, and you had said, "Oh, well, they told me to do pieces, and that through those pieces I would get better." And then I started a piece, and it became really hard, and I stopped, and it stopped me from drawing. And so then at that point, you did this change, and you were like, "I just need to have fun with it, and that's gonna grow my keeping on. You know, if it's fun, if it's exciting, then I'm gonna pick up that pen. You reuse that phrase 1,000 times. Just get you to pick up the pen. That was when it happened. Before then, when you had that choice to do something that was very difficult, but it became hard, it became a chore, it wasn't exciting anymore, and you kind of gave up. And that pattern is a pattern for you.
So it's funny you mentioned that, because it does reaffirm my way of doing things. You mentioned that I gave up on a piece because it was too hard, and so that I decided to start picking up the pen and it would build and grow. Well, I'm at that point where it has built and grown. I don't look at the scales as though they're a task. I look at them as though they are something to learn. Like, I didn't go into the scales and be like, oh, this will work fine. This will work fine. No, it's ended up becoming this. I went into the scales with a mindset of, how do I draw snake scales? And I started a direction, and it didn't work out. And then so I started a different direction, and I liked it. And so that's what I worked on. And then it became like, okay, holy cow, this is going to take me forever. And because of the time constraint, I was worried about getting a piece out quickly. Because the idea is, right, we want to get a piece out a week. God, that'd be so nice. But it's become more of a, as I'm doing them, I'm learning. As I don't want it to be a mindless task that I power through. I can still explore and try things and try to reiterate during the process. I don't want to be this mindless task that I power through. Like editing video or editing pictures, I could see that being a mindless task to power through, but creating art, I don't want it to be that. Not that I'm not going to say that there aren't going to be those. Like, if I have to draw 100 leaves on a tree or something, maybe. But even then, I'd still want to, like, be conscious. I still want to be in the moment looking at these things. Because some of my scales, I look back at them like, oh, that looks so good. Even though they're like, you know, scales on a snake. And so because I've decided to ramp up, I have gotten to a point where they're not hard tasks. They are learning opportunities. And it's because I'm not afraid of the scales. Like, as soon as we get done here, that's where I'm going. It's just what I do. I've ramped up to a point.
Well, I think that you're remembering history incorrectly, because there was a week where you were unsure of what to do with the scales, and you had started it over multiple times, and you were waiting to talk to me to see whether or not to just make a kind of like a I can do it right now version of the scales versus a scales that you would say would be perfect for your situation. And you mentioned how, because of that, you basically doom scrolled the next day. So that doesn't exactly line up perfectly with your new version.
So I would say that the perfection versus time constraint, that was an issue for me. And I wish I had a better memory, because I don't remember exactly why I doom scrolled. Probably because I didn't know where to go as far as the creation
you
process.
did mention how you doom scrolled because of the state that you were in with the scales. So what I'm trying to correlate here is the fact that this is kind of like a pattern. So when you have a hard task, sometimes it defeats you for a while, even if it is just temporary, because you're getting better. I'm not saying you're not getting better. What I'm saying is, I don't think I'm going to have to worry about that because the next day just yields the same result. Hard work. That's it. There is no I have to make it enjoyable. There's no worry about that. There is no worry about, you know, anything except what am I going to do the next day because I have a vision for who I'm going to be, a hope for what it's going to yield, and the pride and the just all the rewards of just accomplishing in the moment and every day. And that is yet another reason why deciding who you're going to be and going for it is, to me, a superior method in changing into something that you want to be. That simple.
I won't agree that it's the superior method. I think there's no longevity in it. I think my method, the ramp up and evolve into what you're going to be, is superior as far as longevity and enjoyment of the things that you want to do. I think, and overall like long-term production, I think it's going to be better because I worry that too much change too quickly can lead to some people and most people panic switching back or dropping it all together, getting burnt out. So I would argue that my method is better just because I think it's more sustainable. I think it's more enjoyable. Should I define my method one more time? I'm going to.
We've already done it today.
No, we have not done it today.
Yeah,
so
you did.
Not exactly.
Okay. Go ahead. Go ahead again.
My method is it's a doing what you want to do on a daily basis and then letting those moments of inspiration. By moments of inspiration, you get these ideas like, oh, hey, I want to go draw this, or oh, hey, I want to go paint that, or those like moments of like, oh, I want to do that, and then jumping on those, and they're using those as explorations of creation, of growth, of learning. And eventually you're going to get to the point where I'm at, where I'm like, okay, I want consistent learning. I want consistent growth. And that's where I'm at right now, is because I've done it daily, because it's become part of my life, because my barrier to entry is nothing, I'm able to grow into where I am now, where I am creating constantly. And there's nothing standing between me and forever. Because I've built it up, because it's become part of my life, because it's just who I am now. And it's through adding it as a part of my life, is letting it consume me.
You say consume and you say part of my life. I would say that for me, it's the majority of my life.
Which is unsustainable.
Which is completely sustainable.
We shall see.
Yeah. That we shall. But because it's a part of your life, it is but many things that you choose to do. Because mine is the majority of my life, there are far fewer things that can actually be a choice. The reasons to continue with what I want the majority of my life to be, the creative part of myself, since it is the majority of my life, it takes much more to break through that. To decide to do something else must be worth it.
For me, there's not even a choice. It's just my default. It's become what I do.
You say that, but there have been very recent examples of how you've been tripped up. So I would say it is not as concrete as you suppose or propose that it is.
Yeah.
Whereas
You're right.
mine, since it is a concrete thing, and it is who I'm defining myself to be, it does not have the I will not allow it. And that is the difference. I will not allow it. Yours, all these external things could potentially mess with this slow evolution, whereas I am being changed by the renewing of my mind. And I am deciding who I will be. And it is a very powerful and consistent belief.
Interesting. Yeah, it looks like we have different views on how to get where we are, and where we want to go. But
I guess, yeah, time will tell.
Yeah.
But I'm making my case as strongly as I can because I know what's going to happen in 6 months. You will see the difference because there will be a clear difference because of the amount of work and effort is going to translate, and the amount of work and effort that you put in will be shown. And I think so far, and I could be proved wrong in the future, but so far you have not clearly defined your life in such a way where you are going to put enough time in to get enough drawings done in an amount of time. But I could be completely wrong. You could start to get these things done and ramp up and get better and all that stuff. But if you're putting the amount of time in that you say you're putting in, then we kind of have an understanding of what should be happening in the course of the next 6 months. So
yeah,
we'll see.
Yeah, we'll see. It'll be fun to check in 6 months and see what's going on.
Yeah, I mean, I guess
learn
in the
from it.
beginning of the year when we
Yeah,
that's
maybe.
3 months from now.
Yeah, 3 months should be pretty good too.
We'll have a pretty good understanding.
Well, 2 months. Oh, 3 months because we got to go through October.
Yeah. But yeah, I mean, I'm like, it seems like maybe I'm kicking on your approach here a little bit, but it at the heart of it, it's because I am sold now, and I really want to make these things clearly known. And if your approach continues to give you this up and down kind of, feeling with how your progress is going on, you may see the steadiness of mine and go, okay, maybe it's not just a talking point here and there, and maybe there is a reason that all these things work so nicely together. That's basically it in a nutshell.
Yeah, and I'm not trying to like drag on yours because I think mine's better. I'm dragging on yours because I'm worried about your longevity, and I'm worried about you as a person, and I want you to succeed. And so I'm pushing for more of a relaxed, sustainable approach because I want you to succeed. And I don't know if yours is going to succeed or not because I mean I'm not in your head. I'm not, I don't know. I don't know the future.
Right.
But it's just a potential pitfall that I worry about for yours.
Well, I think we clearly define
yeah.
the potentials for
Yes.
for this.
Over the last 2 hours.
Yeah. So out there in viewerland, maybe you're waiting for this bout in 6 months to happen so you can define how you should clearly or maybe you have the
So
benefit
stay tuned.
of being 6 months past this point and you know the result. Who knows? But
3 months. We're going to do it 3 months.
obviously we have defined 2 separate methods that we think are good ways to grow. Now, will these methods turn into a sustainable way of becoming, I'm assuming is your goal, same as mine, becoming who you want to be in the term. If you have any
Becoming?
suggestions about a third method, please let us know in the comments as well.
I would also not define it as becoming somebody. It's incorporating it into your life, making it a big part of your life. It's not becoming an artist. I am an artist. I am just growing as an artist. I'm not trying to become this perfect person. I'm trying to just grow myself. Like I think this might be a different definition.
Yeah, well, I'm trying to become as perfect of a artist as I can be. That is my goal. It is a little bit of difference there, I guess.
Yeah, it's nuanced, but I just wanted to make my definition clear because I think it's clarity is rare.
Yeah.
But
There you go.
Thanks for listening to the ramblings of 2 old men trying to grow. We will be back next week with more stuff. Goodbye.
What?